Hi, Papa Yeager here with This Day in History. February 11th, 1990, Nelson Mandela was released from prison. Nelson Mandela was a South African black man who would spend his life fighting to end apartheid in South Africa. In the 1940s, he had joined the ANC, the African National Congress, which was a peaceful organization that wanted to dismantle apartheid. However, in the 1960s, there was a massacre of Black Africans in South Africa, and that totally changed Nelson Mandela's perspective. And he helped organize a paramilitary wing to the ANC. As a result, he ended up in prison on various charges. He spent several decades in prison on Robben Island. He lived in a tiny cement cell with no bed, no mattress, no plumbing. He was allowed to write and receive one letter like every 6 months, and he was allowed one visitor a year. Yet, through all of this, he persisted. He somehow sustained himself. He kept himself sharp. And in 1989, de Klerk became president of South Africa. And as president, one of his aims and goals was to end apartheid. And he released the ban on the ANC. And at that point, he started to release prisoners who were only involved in fighting to end apartheid, who were fighting for equality. He released Nelson Mandela from prison, and then the two of them went on to end apartheid. They jointly won the Nobel Peace Prize in, I think it was 1993, for ending apartheid. Nelson Mandela, of course, went on to become president of South Africa. So that was a pretty big turnaround. You know, he started his life in a country that was completely bigoted, where he wasn't entitled to any equality, and he ended his life as president. It is an incredible life story. The first time I learned about Nelson Mandela, I remember this day in history. I was in high school. And I was sitting at the dinner table with my parents, and on the news, they were talking about how Nelson Mandela was released from prison. And that's when I asked my dad what this was all about. And he was the one that first explained who Nelson Mandela was and apartheid and how awful it was. Anyway, that's This Day in History. February 11th, 1990, Nelson Mandela was released from prison.